Welcome back to Old School Sports and episode 9 of our relatively new adventure in Pro Wrestling Sim. We've simmed almost 2 months since the last time we checked in. The event history since then we'll go through at a very high level. We finished off last episode with the 3W Labor Day Bash, still trying to get 1,000 seats sold in a 1,000 capacity venue. We did that right after the last episode, reaching 1,000 attendance in our 3W Live in September show. So selling out a local large room for the first time. Couple of championship matches, Alani Hernandez retaining the women's championship and the All-Americans retaining the men's tag team championship. One other event took place in the month of September, and that was an event in Rochester, a smaller event where attendance dipped back to just under 900. Moving forward to the month of October, we increased our production values again, started doing local television ads, which $20,000 a month, so a pretty significant increase in our cost per month, but can get more audience attendance necessary for us to get past 40 popularity, although we're only in the mid-20s right now, so still have some work to do to get there. But the thought is that would help us do better going forward. And as we moved into the month of October, we'll show you what happened. Sold out our second show, 3W New Jersey, with 1,000 attendance on October 7th. A week later, we also sold out in Boston, so definitely seem to be benefiting from the beginning of that more aggressive advertising. And then our final show of the month, 3W Live in October, over 1,500. So we took out a large sports hall with 2,500 capacity for the first time. Obviously a long way for us to fill that up, putting only about 60% capacity in there for this event. The men's championship was won by Ricky Babylon over Garrett Carter in the featured match there. And the other title match for that big event was the women's tag team championship, where Alani Hernandez and Gia Valdez, also known as Pain Train, retained their title. So definitely felt like we're making some progress. The 2,500 seat venues are a lot more expensive, but if we're able to put another 500 people in, we'll definitely make it pay off for us. So continue to make some progress going forward. Taking a deeper look at the finances, I was a little worried about September. Apparently the month-end processing didn't work, so we didn't get charged for marketing or production in the month of October, which gave us some artificial money. We actually didn't get credit for any merchandise sales, though, so that was a little bit of a factor against our favor, but still certainly would have just eked out a small profit in September. I was worried that perhaps there was a more significant bug in the game, which is why I simmed all the way through October, but you can see we're now getting charged everything that we're supposed to. Still eked out a small profit for the month of October. The much more significant production and marketing expenses associated with some of the changes that we've made over this year are now hitting our bottom line every month, but it seems like for whatever reason the month-end processing in September just didn't work properly, but it is what it is at this point. And even though we are in a stronger financial position than we ever have been, the realistic levers that we can press at this point, given that we're spending $60,000 a month, or actually $60,500 a month on expenses in addition to the talent, and just eking out, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 profits more often than not. Maybe at some point we can add a small full-time back office team for 20,000 a month. But again, that will help us be able to get past 40 popularity in terms of promotion, but not a big issue now because we've still got a long way to go till we get there. Unfortunately, at this point, outside of the small full-time team and then perhaps starting some in-house music capabilities, the rest of the things to improve our production values are likely out of our reach for some period of time. $100,000 a month for a nationwide marketing campaign, $100,000 a month for higher camera quality, $100,000 a month for staging and lighting, $100,000 a month for a pyro budget that's bigger than what we currently have, or $100,000 a month for higher quality video production and editing are all very unrealistic for us at this point. Certainly $500,000 a month for some professional writers to work on our segments is not something that's achievable. So as I think over the remainder of this year, we probably don't do anything else. Perhaps sometime next year we'll be able to add the small full-time team and maybe some in-house music. But I think the lower hanging fruit as far as the expenses that we can incur to get up to this maximum show score of 50% are largely addressed at this point. But if we're able to, move from the 1,500 people we had at our last show towards 2,000, 2,500, and even higher in the coming months and years, ultimately that will result in us hopefully having even more money to reinvest back into the business as we continue trying to grow. My understanding is that once we get up to 40 popularity, and as I noticed, we're about 25 right now, that is generally when we can start perhaps having an opportunity to negotiate some television deals, which will certainly potentially be a positive for us because right now nobody is interested in working for us and helping broadcast our shows around. But if we get popularity up another 15 points or so higher, maybe over the next year and a half, maybe we can start doing some television work. You can see our marketing budget limiting us to 60 popularity, back office budget limiting us to 40 popularity, but given that we are 25 right now, as I noted, no real rush to increase that back office budget from my perspective. And we did add one more wrestler to our roster. Everybody is still on pay per appearance contracts. I'm not sure of the exact threshold when people would be interested in actually signing a more formal contract with us, but apparently we are not at the point in our development where that's an option yet. But brought Julius Dyer on board, $100 per appearance. Decent entertainer, good looks, good star power, respectable wrestling skill, good stamina. Have him as a patriot for his gimmick with the good entertainment value. He's got a face for his disposition, and the expenses not that bad. We brought him in as a mid-card level person, but could certainly see us pushing him up if things are successful towards the upper mid-card. Backstage morale at this point is still very solid. No real negative presence on the squad at this point. And our big show for the month of November will be coming up in just a few days. Still working out all of the bookings. We are going to have a angle at the beginning where we sign Julius Dyer to join us. We are trying to start a new storyline involving him and Lucian Gilliam, who at one point was one of the bigger heels in our promotion. Haven't had a lot of success with him. We're hoping maybe Julius Dyer can start chasing after him and Malcolm McKnight. and perhaps get a little momentum going with that storyline. You can see we once again do plan to have a local large sports hall for this event. Looks like we might be able to get around 1,600 in attendance, which would certainly be positive. Expenses a little lower for this show than some. We are still with the fact that Garrett Carter is now requesting $1,500 per appearance, going to be prudent on how we use him. He's not actually going to be in this show. The featured match is coming up. The Women's Championship, Alani Hernandez defending her title against Isabella Baxter. And then the Men's Tag Team Championship, the All-Americans will be defending their title against Mayhem. Another pretty big match, Elias David versus Keith Yates. And as I mentioned, Julius Dyer, we're starting that storyline with him against Lucian Gilliam. They'll have a match. The other three storylines that we have going have pretty good heat. 72 for I'm Coming to Get You, Elias David chasing after Yates, McNeil, and Henson. Garrett Carter's return, very strong, 81 heat there, and a new rival between Corey McKee and Keith Yates, his 68 heat right now. Not necessarily any of the most dynamic personalities among our wrestlers, but we're trying to build interest somehow. But certainly the storylines involving Ricky Babylon have tended to be the most successful given his outstanding skill set. And we've made it to 3W Live in November, which is going to be our big show. Still expecting about 1,600 in attendance. Have added in a decent production quality video at the end highlighting some of our key wrestlers, which we hope will help with some of the storylines. Actually, I'm actually going to add in the newcomer Julius Dyer to that one as well, although he's not an extremely prominent wrestler with us at this point. As I noted, we've got elevated production on this, and we've got a lot of big wrestlers like Ricky Babylon, Elias David, Garrett Carter, and others being noted in this video. So hopefully his inclusion in there, along with Malcolm McKnight, one of the other wrestlers that he's chasing, as well as Lucian Gilliam for that matter, will help give a little bit of juice to him and a little bit of juice to that storyline going forward. Go ahead and get the show started. See if we can once again get to a 50% show score. Signing of the contract with Julius Dyer. Pretty good reaction to that segment, thanks primarily to Ricky Babylon and Samara Lester, although as we noted, Julius Dyer also does have star power and good looks, so right now he is a relatively inexpensive pay per appearance wrestler, and we're hoping to get some momentum going with him. Introductions for Isabella Baxter and Alani Hernandez before their championship match get a good result as well. Alani Hernandez, as usual, retains her title. The match, however, is a bit of a dud. But hopefully with the big scores from some of the angles we've been working on, we can overcome that poor match quality. For that title match, Kason Hughes beats Colby Tyler in a matchup of a couple of guys who are typically more involved in tag team matches. Colby Tyler, part of the C-Squared tag team, and Kason Hughes was recently challenging for the tag team championship where he lost to the All-Americans. Newcomer Julius Dyer versus Lucian Gilliam, and Lucian Gilliam's struggles in the 3W promotion continue. He gets upended by the newcomer. Julius Dyer wins his first performance. Lucian Gilliam's performance today was much worse than usual. The 49% score, same with the Kason Hughes and Colby Tyler, is just barely getting us to where we need to be. Hopefully some of these later matches will have higher final scores. Kyle Howard and Judah Horn. Kyle Howard with the victory gets us right to 50%. The M&M Boys, the former tag team champions who had to vacate their title when Marvin McNeil got injured, get a victory over Thunder and Lightning. Mark Cannon and Malcolm McKnight there score a little bit more than what we need. Hoping these last two matches really have very strong scores. Elias David and Keith Yates also at 53%. The last one, the men's tag team championship, the All-Americans versus Mayhem, 64% score there. Ricky Babylon and Trace Henson successfully retain their title. So that's a good score there. And then I'm expecting this promotional video, now that the show is over, to get a pretty good score at all, given the production value that we're putting into it and some very popular people. And we do get a 95% score there, and you can see momentum for everyone coming out of this video. So that should be money well spent. Another good solid show. We're going to get to our 50% because we could have gotten as high as 57. End the show, and we'll find out in our email box what the attendance actually was. 1,640 tickets, so that is better than what we did with our main show in October, which was the last show we did. So continue to make some progress. $41,000 in ticket sales at $25 a pop. So a good start when we think about the finances to this month of November. Obviously, we're going to have all of those marketing and production expenses coming in at the end of the month. So still have a lot of work to do to ensure that we remain profitable. Two more shows ahead of us in this month of November. Augusta, Maine in a little less than a week, and then a larger show, the 3W Thanksgiving Bash. We'll finish out the year with a show in Syracuse, our main live show in Connecticut on December 9th, and then the Jingle Bell Blast on December 17th, the final show of the year. That will be more similar to the Thanksgiving Bash. Not as big a show as the monthly live shows, but bigger than the smaller shows where we just have the name of the city that we're going to in the title. So the progress continues up to about $286,000. It's conceivable that I'll sim through the rest of the year before the next time we check in, unless something really interesting happens. It may be fictional 2023 by the time I circle back. And we've run a couple shows here in the month of December since the last time we checked in. Interesting twist that we want to talk about, but we'll give you a quick background on what happened. The smaller show in Syracuse sold out a 1,000-person room. Would have expected attendance of only around 1,100 if we had spent all the extra money for a 2,500-person venue. So felt like it made sense to just sell out the smaller situation. Did have the women's championship take place in that match or on that day. Alani Hernandez, as she has been for many years, or close to 2 years at this point, successfully defended her title. Big event for the month of July, for the month of October, a week later, 3W Live in October. Attendance of over 1,700 for this event, which I believe is a record for us. Title match in this event, the 3W Men's Tag Team Championship, the All-Americans beating Thunder and Lightning. Also had a first blood match where Garrett Carter defeated Keith Yates. You can see a pretty busy schedule otherwise. Having trouble talking here today. Apologies for that as we get this episode continued on. But we did notice that all of our angles for this show were capped at 70%, and we received some issues with the normal matches as well being restricted. And what had happened between our Syracuse show and our 3W Live show, and I don't really know why, is that backstage morale which if you've been following us closely, has been in the 90 to 100 range basically throughout the playthrough after we got rid of some malcontents on our team. Dropped all the way down to 54 before that last show, and there was no obvious impetus for that happening to me. My hunch is maybe it's some combination of us having grown to a regional promotion size, having over $300,000 in the bank, the popularity moving over 26, or even perhaps the fact that we have been growing our marketing and back office budgets. But instantaneously, we had about a 40-point drop in backstage morale from 93 less than a week ago to 54 by the time we ran the big show. So it appears that despite the fact that everyone is generally a positive presence and has good morale, our wrestlers are getting more demanding as we are getting more and more successful. So what we've done is we've upgraded the catering from nothing to decent catering, 1,000 per show. That gave us a 10-point boost from 54 to 64 in terms of total morale. And then we're now also lightly subsidizing travel expenses, $100 per worker per month. That gave us another 5-point boost to morale to get to 69. So a little bit of progress there. The next steps would be very expensive catering or increasing the subsidy for travel expenses by $400 a worker, or giving $300 per worker per month to lightly subsidize their medical expenses. The reason we haven't pulled that lever yet is it's fairly expensive, and when we look at our roster at this point, we do have 30 wrestlers on board, as well as 3 personalities, a couple of referees, and a couple of backstage staff. So multiplying all of those people by several hundred more dollars per month is going to get relatively expensive relatively quickly. So hopefully the 15-point addition we got with the better catering and a small subsidy for travel expenses will help make the final show of the year, the Jingle Bell Blast, a little more successful. We've still got to get the show completely booked, but we decided that every championship title would be up for grabs at one of the shows here in December. So for this final show, Garrett Carter is going to be facing off against Ricky Babylon for the men's championship, although we need to increase the length of that show, obviously. And then Pain Train will be defending their women's tag team championship against Fire and Ice. Still have much more to do to build up the whole show. You can see the subsidy of the travel costs that we've already added in starting to add up in terms of our potential costs. So it'll be interesting to see with these additional catering and travel expenses how the income statement and ultimately the balance sheet look for us at the end of the month, which we will find out when the calendar turns to January. And we've simmed ahead and worked out a card, and we are ready for the final event of the year for the Wild World of Wrestling promotion, the Jingle Bell Blast. Then we'll have just over 2 weeks off until another relatively large show, the New Year's Bash, followed by 3W Live in January, and then a smaller show in New York City at the end of the month. The Jingle Bell Blast ready to go. As I noted, unfortunately, the atmosphere backstage is so-so, which may impact performance. As we know, total morale is 69 right now, unfortunately. So hopefully the show won't be restricted too much. As I noted, we're 15 points higher than we were for the last show. Taking a look at our plans, as I mentioned, the first match is going to be the World's Tag Team Championship on the women's side. So we will have introductions of the wrestlers there. Josue Melton going to face off against Kason Hughes. No DQ match between Malcolm McKnight and Julius Dyer. We do have a relatively new storyline going that includes the two of them and Julius Dyer, a relatively new addition to the promotion. Has a little bit of star power and a little bit of momentum right now. A cage match between the Good Guys and Mayhem in the final tag team match of the year for 3W. Trace Henson will then face off against Lucian Gilliam, Elias David against Marvin McNeil, and then the final match of the year, the men's championship, Garrett Carter versus Ricky Babylon. An interview afterwards with Ricky Babylon, and then we're going to have a 12-minute video kind of closing out the year, hopefully tying a lot of the storylines together and hopefully getting a little bit of momentum continuing for those storylines into next year. Although, as I noted, our segment scores are unfortunately restricted right now, given that the workers are looking for a little more compensation and a little more love from us, but focused on 4 key faces: promotion owner Ricky Babylon, new addition Julius Dyer, Keith Yates, who is part of that Good Guys team that's participating in the cage match, and then Trace Henson. For the heels, focused on Garrett Carter, relatively new addition Elias David, veteran Malcolm McKnight, and then Alani Hernandez, who is both the women's singles champion and, at least heading into this show, also still the women's tag team champion, along with her partner Gia Hernandez. Expecting attendance of about 1,700, so the larger room is going to make sense here. We're going to make sure that we go to the local large sports hall, take advantage of another 600 to 700 people in there that we couldn't have fit with a smaller capacity arena for the Jingle Bell Blast. Wages close to $5,000, and the subsidized travel costs also going to cost us there. It is definitely an expense for us because you can see a fair amount of people for the show don't even make $100 or barely make $100 a show. So also giving them $100 in travel costs is doubling, or in some cases more than doubling, their compensation. So we'll see how we can deal with these increased expenses. Hopefully some of the stuff that we're doing will get the atmosphere backstage improving, get the final show of the year underway. And it does look like we're probably still capped at 70% because of the so-so atmosphere backstage. Unfortunately, only a 43% score for the women's tag team championship match, which the Pain Train, Alani Hernandez, and Gia Valdez do retain. Backstage morale meant that the workers were not performing at their best. This is what we ran into in our last show, unfortunately. So with our 50% cap on our overall show scores, 43% certainly isn't going to help us get there. But we're hoping that most of these promotions will still hit 70%, and maybe with the higher production values for that final video, we can get over that, but it's not going to shock me if 70% is our cap right now. Josue Melton versus Kason Hughes. Kason Hughes with the victory. Workers, once again, not performing their best, so we may have to think about increasing expenses in the new year to ensure that we get some better shows going forward. Malcolm McKnight and Julius Dyer. Malcolm McKnight with the victory there. The backstage morale, of course, did limit things. I'll stop mentioning that since that's going to be the case for all of our shows. But a 2-star match quality and a 57% final score there, which is progress compared to the first 2 matches. Good Guys versus Mayhem. Keith Yates and Judah Horn. The Good Guys get the victory. They have some incredible chemistry together, and Judah Horn, with his learning skills, does help everybody ultimately try to put together a better show, although 48% for our score, certainly not stellar. Trace Henson versus Lucian Gilliam. Pretty solid match quality for us there. Trace Henson takes the victory. Just 2 matches left now for the 3W year. Elias David with a win over Marvin McNeil. His performance much better than usual. And last but not least, Garrett Carter versus Ricky Babylon. Ricky Babylon successfully retains his men's championship. 76% final score, thanks in a large part to Nolan Bryant putting the match story together, and of course the continued star quality of Ricky Babylon. Interview with Ricky Babylon post-show, 70% score there and no popularity boost. It definitely seems like the so-so atmosphere backstage is limiting our progress with some of these angles. Last but not least, the video promotion. Again, nobody gets a bump out of it, unfortunately. And even with the higher production expenses for us, nothing positive comes out of it. Looks like we're capped at 70%. So tend to think we're going to need to be a little more willing to open the purse strings. 50% show rating. Could have gotten to 63% with better production. But you saw that in many different ways the atmosphere backstage impacted us in terms of some of the match scores, and then it looks like we are capped out on a 70 for some of the scores from our angles with the morale that we are dealing with backstage at this point. Did give Gia Valdez a potential championship match, something she asked for, even though she's been the women's tag team champion along with Alani Hernandez for closing in on 2 years now. 1,769 tickets sold, so over 44,000 in ticket sales. Tend to think that when we do get to the end of this year, the P&L is going to look okay even here in the month of December, and we have got a fair amount of money in the bank. So I think in terms of thinking about growth of the promotion going forward, probably going to be time for us to start opening the purse strings a little more, give people some better benefits, and hopefully improve the backstage morale. To me, the 93 to 54 decline that just happened basically instantaneously was a little bit dramatic. But I honestly don't hate that we do need to try to push some new levers to keep morale up. The first year and a half plus or so where we were just kind of constantly in that 90 to 100 range because we got rid of the negative people wasn't necessarily incredibly realistic either. So do like that the status quo does just not persist indefinitely, and we're going to have to continue to make some trade-offs and do some thinking and do some work to hopefully keep most of the people involved in the wild world of wrestling promotion happy and performing at their best levels. And we've made it finally to the new year, so we'll take a look at where a lot of things stay. Backstage morale, 69, no change here. Obviously, we do have the levers of potentially helping more with travel expenses or medical expenses is things that we could do. We could also really up our catering game, an extra $4,000 per show. Don't know that we can quite afford that at this point, because with 3 shows a month, that's moving from $3,000 a month to $15,000 a month, which is certainly going to be expensive. But as we've talked about, we've also got a lot of workers, so subsidizing travel expenses or medical expenses further is certainly going to be something that will certainly help morale, but we're going to have to give deep thought to, given the financial situation that we are in. We do, at this point, have another profitable month in December, sold more tickets than ever before. Made more money off of merchandise than ever before, as well as sponsorships, but staff wages were the highest they've ever been, marketing and production as high as they've ever been, and we did start incurring some of those travel and catering expenses that we've talked about. Still made over $17,000 for the month and have over $293,000 in the bank. So I think it's fair for us to consider trying to run things going forward at a little more of a break-even type number. Hopefully, also, we'll continue to increase the ticket sales, the merchandise sales, and the sponsorships to help offset some of that. But at this point, we are going to at least make one more decision as far as the backstage rules and lightly subsidize medical expenses for the workers at $300 a month. Again, with the 37 or so people we have in the promotion at this point, that's around $13,000 a month in additional expenses. So everything else being equal, we still should be able to make some money, but that's taken a big chunk of our profits away from us. Does give us another 5-point boost to morale, which hopefully will be helpful going forward. Looking at the New Year's Bash, atmosphere backstage still so-so, so more progress that we're going to need to make, but feel like we've given the workers a fair amount of things that should make them somewhat happier over the last month or so. Quick check-in on the storylines. I'm coming to get you at a 72. That certainly hasn't been trending well lately, with the fact that a lot of our promotions have been capped out at 70% as far as those angles. The Garrett Carter and Ricky Babylon storyline that's been going on for a while, though, pretty positive there. But again, when you look at some of those recent scores, tend to think the heat on that, as well as some other storylines, are going to be cooling down a little bit in the coming weeks and months, unless we can get the backstage atmosphere better. The new rivalry between Corey McKee and Keith Yates also doing decently, although as we talked about, the match between them didn't get an incredibly high score, getting a little more bang for the buck out of some of the promotions and the angles we've been running. New kid in town, Julius Dyer and Joaquin Sullivan, with Lucian Gilliam and Malcolm McKnight involved also. Got a solid result from that last match there. Decent heat going with the storyline, but certainly have more work to do. Taking a look at awards for 2022, Match of the Year. Not expecting that we were going to be on the top of the list there, but we'll scroll down and see if we had anything worthy of note. We did have a Ricky Babylon versus Garrett Carter match on 3W Bash Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. That got an 80% score for us, so that was the 13th ranked match of the year. Angle of the year, Jackson Barker and Nasty Nate Baxter. A lot of momentum between them, but the Ricky Babylon and Samara Lester love triangle, as well as the broader themes and storylines involving Babylon and Garrett Carter, as well as their eventual managers. 100% scores from several of those angles. Unfortunately, as we've talked about now, though, even though we got a lot of traction with a lot of our angles and storylines over the year, with that 70% cap on what we can achieve, it's going to be hard for us to duplicate that. Garrett Carter, your wrestler of the year. 52 segments with an average score of 80, and Ricky Babylon ranked third, 97 segments with an average score of 77. Again, admittedly, a fair amount of that has been driven not by the matches, but by some creative storylines and some good angles that got very good promotional results for us. So given that we're tapped at 70 right now and what we can do there, going to be much harder for us to achieve those kinds of numbers next year. Doesn't look like we have anybody else near the top of the list as we do our 2022 review, although Trace Henson ranks 30th overall. average segment score of 69 on the 83 segments that he was involved in for us. Men's Wrestler of the Year, Garrett Carter and Ricky Babylon obviously rank 1 and 3 here. Women's Wrestler of the Year, Gia Valdez. She was involved in that long-running storyline with Emma Banks, even though she is not as accomplished a member of our tag team champions as Alani Hernandez is. Valdez actually got a higher average segment score. Emma Banks, we mentioned that long-running feud with Valdez that got some momentum. Alani Hernandez actually ranked 6th. Isabella Baxter in the top 10 as well. So probably a lot more people focused on, or a lot fewer people focused on the women's wrestling promotions than we were, but got a lot of good momentum there. Looking at the top 10 promotions overall, not surprisingly, we didn't make it in there. Average event score of 44, though, can get us there. So given that we're capped out as 50 now, I think it's very fair for us to target getting into the top 10 promotions of the year for 2023. Show of the year, you can see some of these really big shows here with 80 show scores and massive attendance compared to what we are able to generate, unfortunately, given that our show scores are capped at 50. Obviously, we're not going to be appearing in the top 50 there, but still good to see that in the annual awards and rankings, a little bit of attention for the wild world of wrestling promotion for 2022. And with the new year here, I did think about trying to do something to enhance our production values. The two somewhat reasonable things to consider would be moving to a small full-time team for the back office, or moving to in-house music for events. Those cost $20,000 per month and $30,000 per month respectively, however. So with the additional expenses that we're going to be incurring for travel and healthcare and catering going forward, don't want to pull the trigger on any of those right now. Otherwise, we're looking at $100,000 per month to get any increase to the 50 show score that we have right now. So I don't think we're ready for those type of expenses. Hoping that at some point this year we can either do the small full-time team or the in-house production. But I do want to see what a month or two of actual production look like for us with the higher expenses that we're going to be incurring. Before we finish things up, though, we will run through our first event of the year, the New Year's Bash. Even with the healthcare expenses, the atmosphere backstage still only so-so. So we're up against it a little bit there. You can see wages for the show about $3,600, travel costs of $2,700 incurred, expecting attendance of close to 1,700. A couple particularly interesting matches here. The women's championship, Alani Hernandez will defend her title against Isabella Baxter. Elias David and Trace Henson will be facing off. Trace Henson has been kind of the last guy that Elias David needs to get through to have a reasonable shot at Ricky Babylon for the tag team championship. So far, I believe Trace Henson has won every match between the two. And then something a little different to finish things off. We've got an 8-person Rumble match. And honestly, we're using some of the lower mid-card, and upper mid-card people who don't get that much attention. Rodrigo Schmidt, Valentino Ballard, Joaquin Sullivan, Colby Hendricks, Kason Hughes, Judah Horn, Xander Berry, and Julius Dyer. Judah Horn and Julius Dyer are among some of the newer faces who have gotten a little bit attempted a run with us over the past year. Julius Dyer still involved in that New Kid in Town storyline with Joaquin Sullivan for reference. So maybe one of them comes out of the Rumble with a victory, and we can start perhaps whoever emerges from that big event on a storyline, or at least some more prominent matches this year as we try to maybe set somebody up for a push who's kind of in the lower to mid levels of the 3W promotion at this point. Finish things off with a big interview with Ricky Babylon and Trace Henson. Ricky Babylon and Trace Henson talking about Garrett Carter and Elias David, following up to the big match between David and Henson, as well as the match from the Jingle Bell Bash where Ricky Babylon defended his title against Garrett Carter. So go ahead and get the show started, and we'll finish the episode after this. Still looks like we're capped at a 70% score on our segments, unfortunately, and not really getting any popularity boosts coming out of them. Anastasia Romero with a win over Gia Valdez. Unfortunately, it's a dud of a match. Tag team matchup between the M&M boys, Malvin McNeil and Josue Melton, against Mark Cannon and Malcolm McKnight. Marvin McNeil and the M&M boys with the victory, although McNeil's performance worse than usual. Workers not performing at their best, the final score of a 49, so you can see the matches are not even getting up to that 50% minimum that we'd like to achieve. Keith Yates and Kyle Howard, not great either there. Keith Yates gets the victory over Howard with a 46% score. Introductions for the upcoming match between Baxter and Hernandez, and you'll note we used to get the commentary about their great looks and star power when we could get a 70% plus score for some of these angles. Unfortunately, right now, the backstage morale is not great, so that's something we're going to continue to need to work on. Lonnie Hernandez does successfully retain her title, 48% score for the match. Elias David versus Trace Henson, and a good score there, but as we've talked about, Trace Henson continues to ultimately win those matches against Elias David. But a 56% match score is good for us, a little bit of momentum for Trace Henson in terms of popularity for the North American continent coming out of that, despite the fact that his performance was much worse than usual. This Rumble match at 27 minutes is going to have a real big impact on our ultimate score. Not the most popular wrestlers involved, so this could end up being a total dud, but hoping that the storyline will come together. And it looks like it went reasonably well. 53%, 69% match quality. Julius Dyer, the relatively new addition, wins, comes out of here with some momentum. So good to see. Judah Horn also helped everyone learn, so good to have him working with a wide variety of wrestlers. Julius Dyer, as we kind of hoped, comes out with a little bit of momentum perhaps. We'll see what happens with the interview post Trace Henson's victory over Elias David, and Ricky Babylon, who didn't wrestle today, also being involved there. Guessing we were going to be capped at 70%, and unfortunately with the so-so backstage situation, just can't get any popularity gains coming out of these angles, which is unfortunate. Do get the 50% show rating, but 54 was the most we could have attained. I think we're going to not change anything financially over the rest of January and just get a better sense of what the financials actually look like with some of these increased expenses. But I do think that ultimately we may need to loosen the purse strings a bit further to try to get morale back up a little bit higher. The next logical move is probably to subsidize travel expenses a little more aggressively. I think one thing that we'll consider at the end of the month of January as well is what our promotion's roster size ultimately is. If we're going to be paying some of these additional expenses, maybe there's a few wrestlers that we don't really need to have associated with us anymore, even though they're on PPA contracts. If they're just appearing in one random show a month, still going to have some travel and health expenses involved at this point. And perhaps if we're not getting a lot of bang for the buck from some of these lower and mid-card wrestlers, might be the time to move on from them. So we do have a couple of contracts with Josue Melton and Rodrigo Schmidt. Interestingly, I think the only two masked wrestlers we have in the promotion, their contracts both expire on the same day. So that could be something that we think more seriously about as things go forward. Check the mail. Trace Henson offered a number of contracts, and 1,900 tickets sold to the New Year's Bash. So that's a new record for us. 2,500 attendance cap at the facility that we were in, but closing in on $50,000 in ticket sales. So certainly would hope that perhaps when we get to the live event in January in less than 3 weeks, maybe we can get over 2,000 people in, which will certainly help with our finances. Obviously off to a very strong start with almost $50,000 in revenue from that one show. But we know that between marketing and production and additional travel and catering costs, as well as the ultimate back office costs that we'll incur, that there's going to be a lot more expenses going through our P&L before we get to the end of the month. So with that, we will call it an episode. Next time around, we'll catch you up on what we've done offline in the early going of this 2023 season, and see if we can continue to move the promotion in the right direction. Popularity at this point, 27 for the wild world of wrestling, so still have a ways to go to get to the 40 that we're capped on based on our back office budget. Getting close to that by the end of the year is certainly a good goal for us to pursue, and we'll find out in the coming episodes whether or not we're able to achieve it. Until our next episode, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.